Welcome to another podcast of A Funny Thing Happened on My Way to Success. I am your man, your host, Miguel Washington, comedian, public speaker, entrepreneur. What else do I do? Author, former radio personality. I do it all. That's right, I do it all. And we're going to have another good show today. For those who's joining me for the first time, A Funny Thing Happened on My Way to Success is a podcast based on... focus on comics, entertainers, musicians, comedians, ventriloquists, you name it, who was on the grind constantly, we didn't reach superstardom. We just love what we do. We make a living at what we do. A lot of people never heard of us. Some people have heard of us, but you're going to hear our stories. You're going to hear our suffering, our pain, our trials and tribulations, funny stories, because I bring some crazy people on board. And today is no exception. I'm glad my friend here decided to allow me to come on to the, I got to bring him on to the show with me. He's a very funny comedian, very good golfer. This brother is one heck of a good guy, been in the game for a long time. So welcome to my podcast. A Funny Thing Happened on My Way to Success. I met Mr. Derrick Cameron. What's up, Derrick? How you doing, man?
What's up, man? How you doing? Feeling it?
I'm doing good. And I messed up because I got to do something real quick because I left my Facebook on. And if I leave it on, you're going to hear that bleeping all the time. So that was my bad. So now we back. There we go, man. What's going on, bro?
All right.
Yes, it's always good to have a fellow comedian on because it's kind of like when boxers, after they retire, they get to hang out, they get to tell stories. We get to tell stories. We ain't retired, but we like to hang out and tell stories anyway, man.
Can we still call ourselves comedians?
Yeah, right. Dude, I did a show. Did I send you the link? I did a show for my church last night, my first virtual comedy show. I did 30 minutes. Yeah. Didn't think I was gonna make it to 30. I told him 15.
Yeah.
30 minutes. No laughter because you couldn't hear the audience because you have to mute because it was on Zoom. Had to mute everybody. All you can do is see people doing this or people doing this.
Yeah. Maybe they were praying that you get better.
But here's a good thing about virtual. I found this out. The good thing about virtual comedy shows. You can work on anything you want.
Yes.
And, all you doing is working your time in anyway. So if they don't laugh, it don't matter. If you don't see a move, it don't matter. But I had a good time, man. Let me tell you something, Derrick. We both been in the game for a long time. Like, what year did you start?
Ooh, I started, well.
Okay, kids, when somebody starts their sentence, they answer with, ooh. It's been a while.
Somewhere around near the end of summer or around September of 1984.
Wow, 1984?
Yes.
Man, you was a young buck when you started, bro.
I started as soon as I turned 21, and I said, I'm going. I didn't know. I was working at a store. I was working at this department store. I was a manager. I was working for a company called J.W. Robinson's, which is now called Macy's.
Okay.
And I was a third floor manager.
Okay.
So I took care of carpeting and rugs.
Okay.
And I sold a lot of carpeting and rugs. In fact, we were based in Fashion Valley, which is in San Diego.
Okay.
And there was like 20
stores. From, right? That's where you're from, right?
Yeah, about 22 stores in Southern California.
All right.
And when I became manager at 19 years old, the average manager was like 50 something. So I was the youngest, home store, third floor executive that they ever had.
Wow. Okay.
And, all the other people were older that sold, China and sold furniture and electronics, all those stuff. And I was this 19-year-old black kid selling rugs and carpeting. And I just killed it because I was out selling.
Back up. You're on the third floor selling carpet.
Carpeting and rugs.
How did you get from selling carpet and rugs to even having the desire and the dream to even become a stand-up comedian? Well, 1984.
Yeah.
You know, Eddie was just getting. Yeah. He was on fire.
Right. Well, this is what happened.
I'm talking about. Yeah,
I was working at the store.
Okay.
How I got into the carpeting was I was selling so much stuff down at in clothing.
Okay.
And they just knew I could sell, you know, when I was 18 years old, and I connected with people. So they said to me, hey, Derrick, we got this opening on the 3rd floor. You know, I walked by there plenty of times on the 3rd floor, and all I see people just sitting around looking bored behind the desk. I said, all right, I don't know what it's all about.
Ain't much happening in carpet, brother.
Right, but there was this one older cat, I can't remember his name, but he drove a brand new, beautiful purple Eldorado. It was clean, right? And this kind of soft purple color. And I said, I said, this is like an 80s, right?
Right.
And I said, he must be making some money up there.
Right.
Right. So they quietly up there, just kind of sitting around. I thought they were bored. I'm down there selling clothes.
Right.
And I found out that upstairs, oh, you get 7.5% of whatever you sell.
Oh,
and I said,
commission thing.
Yeah, and I said, oh, really? So I said, yes, I'll try it.
Right.
And, I went up there, and man, I got one of my first awards was because I sold like $100,000 worth of carpet in like,
wow,
about 3 or 4 months.
Wow.
Yes.
Man, you was covering ground.
Man, I said, oh, I'm gonna quietly sit up here and make this money. So what happened was,
you're making good money, and so
and then so what happened? I used to write funny things and then post it in the employee lounge.
Okay.
And I would put it up and then post it up there and write funny stories. And then we had an anniversary party.
Okay.
15-year anniversary of the store. And so they said, hey, we're going to go around the bay on a boat in San Diego and have a little party.
Okay.
And I said, you know what? I'm going to ask the store manager if I can grab the microphone for 5 minutes before the band starts.
Okay.
Because I had funny thoughts that I wrote down. And I said, yeah, I'm going to go try that. So
really?
I went up. Yes. And I went up, and he said, go ahead. And I went up and grabbed a microphone and did 5 minutes of material. And then that night, my friend, she worked in the shoe department. She was young. She managed the shoe department. She was Derrick. There's this place called the Comedy Store, and they have open mics on Monday. And you can go sign up for it, and you can go up. I go, really? I was like, done.
Wow.
That was it.
So you really had no desire to be a stand-up. You just had this idea to go up on stage and talk about.
I didn't know that there was a place I go, because like I thought I was going to be a radio. I thought I was going to be a radio.
Okay. Yeah, I did that. That's fun. That's fun.
All my childhood, I spent sleeping on the floor at my senior from the 10th grade on, because I turned my bedroom into a studio.
Oh, okay.
And I put my bed up against the wall. I slept on the floor. And I spent all my money from cutting lawns, and I had 4 turntables. I had 4 Technique 1200s.
Wow, okay. You cut a lot of yards.
Yeah. I had a Yamaha 1200, a Yamaha, which one is it? 1000. The receiver. And I had cassette decks. I put my speakers up above me, up inside, and then I had a microphone that came down to the center of the room, and my stuff was just covered with albums and 45s and stuff like that.
Did you want to be a DJ or you want to be a radio personality?
I thought I was going to be, because I was doing I was sitting in my room all day. Hey, this is DC Wonder Rocker down on the half hour. We're going to come right back with a little tune coming from south of the border. This is Madonna and Borderline. Hit your mark. You got to hit your mark.
Man,
and I recorded all this stuff, and I was doing house parties, and so I thought that's what I was going to do. But I thought to become a radio DJ that you had to go to CBS, Columbia School of Broadcasting.
Well, a lot of them they did. Yeah, back in the day they did go there. Yeah.
And I thought that's what you had to do, but I didn't know the process.
Right.
So I always thought different, always thought funny in a different way. So when it came to at work, when they told me there's a place where you just sign up and you can go up and do it, I went, I'm there. And I was there the next week because I needed to know something.
Right.
I always made my friends laugh.
Right.
But I needed to find out if I could make people that know nothing about me laugh.
See, I had no desire. Now we have one thing in common. We both work with a lot of older gentlemen.
Yeah.
When I came out of high school, I graduated in 82, and I immediately got married because I was in love. And but I was making, in 1982, I was making $15 an hour.
Yeah.
Working at the Dallas Morning News. In the what they call the composite area. So $15 an hour back then was good money.
Yeah.
Really good money. I had no desire to do anything other than play football.
Right.
But I was working with a lot of older men, and as the years went by, when I went into stand-up, I started thinking about in 82 when I graduated, when Murphy hit the roof. Didn't have another thought to it. I went to my first stand-up show in 1986. I saw Shirley Hemphill.
Okay.
Freddie Brown.
Yeah.
And Gene McGuire. I'll never forget it.
Wow.
And I saw those three at the Comedy House in Dallas, Texas. That was 86. It took me 3 more years to get up enough nerve to go on stage. But what pushed me is I looked around at those older guys that I work with. Yeah. And I said, there is no way I'm going to wind up here.
Right.
For the rest of my life, I got to do something. But you knew at a young age, like 19, 19, I was like, how am I going to get some milk to feed this boy?
I had a head start in the fact that I knew I could do sales and I was good at it.
That's the key.
You know, we were outselling Beverly Hills and Thousand Oaks and all that money area.
Right.
We outsold La Jolla, which is the rich area of San Diego. The only reason why they would beat us in sales sometimes is because of the yardage of the houses. Some of the houses were so big in Beverly Hills, they couldn't compete with the houses in my area. Right. But we outsold them a lot of times. And so it was great. And I mean, back in that day, from 83 on, no, I think it was 83.
Okay.
My base salary was $2,000 a month plus commissions every 2 weeks.
Wow. So when you first did stand-up, of course, you fell in love with it.
Yeah.
And you fell in love with it so much that you left $2,000 plus commission on the table. How long did it take you to transition out?
Let's just say my first year in comedy, I used to make that sometimes in a month.
Dude, I'm talking about 6 months for me. We'll drive anywhere for that $100, $150.
Now, this is something that maybe only comedians will understand. I was so clueless, but I was the opening act.
Right.
I would fly in as the opening act and get a rental car to drive around that week because I had good credit.
Here's the thing.
I had really good credit, man.
Right there, you just told me you're a totally different type of dude because no comic has good credit and no 19-year-old have any wisdom. You're a strange dude. You ain't from this planet, man.
No, man. I had good credit when I left the other job, and then I became a comic.
And then you credited with the welcome to the club, son. Welcome to the club. When your credit score, when you weigh more than your credit score, now you in.
Man, I ran up some bills. I'm telling you, that first few years, I ran up some bills.
Bro. But I had, like you said, I had good credit when I started because I remember, what's this Straussman? He was
David Straussman, the ventriloquist?
Yes. I worked with him once in St. Louis, Missouri.
Okay.
And we worked, and the club owner asked me, it was just me and him, a 2-man show, and he asked me could I take him to the club every day. I said, man, look, I ain't no chauffeur. No. He said, I'll pay you extra $100. I said, okay. Yeah, no, right. The extra $100, I'll take it. I'll take it wherever you want to go. But he was acting like a real butthole to me.
Yeah.
The whole time. And I remember the first night he get in my car, and he's looking at my car. And I had a 1986 Buick Somerset, burgundy with burgundy crushed velvet interior. It was clean because I was a family man. It was a 4-door.
Yeah,
and he gets in my car, looking around the car, and he's like, "What else do you do for a living?" I don't do anything. I'm a comedian. This not an opener's car.
Yeah.
I'm not an opener. I'm just opening for you.
Yeah.
Man. So you went on the road. Let's go back. You left your job.
Well, yeah. How I decided though, this is what happened.
What happened? Yeah.
I was very fortunate because in San Diego we had the Comedy Store that had been established there for many, many years.
Okay.
But within my first year, the Improv decided to open up its first franchise club in San Diego.
Okay.
So in Pacific Beach, they opened up the Improv in San Diego.
Okay.
And I never got really any traction with the Comedy Store.
Okay.
My style or whatever, it just didn't connect. And I went up to LA for a little bit. I went to Hollywood to try, but
exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, and I understand it because their style of at the Comedy Store was more of the rebels.
Yes.
And I was more of the technician, more of the polished style.
Yes.
We used to say that the Improv are the comics that finish rehab, and the Comedy Store are the guys that still need to go.
But I never even thought of that. But that is so true about those two different styles. The rooms cater to a certain style. Richard Pryor was the epitome of the store.
Yes. Yes.
And the Improv was more of, like you said, a technician, the polished, premise, setup, punchline, the Rodney Dangerfield, just to give him a title like that. Yeah.
Yeah, because
you get the Improv come to town.
Yeah. So the Improv came to town, and I started going there, gangbusters, and I was there all the time.
Right.
So that really started, and then so what happened for me is seeing all these real big names coming in.
Right.
I got to hang out with them, and I would go to them and talk to them to absorb as much as I could about the business. And one of my favorite lineups that I did, because I became like an MC. So sometimes I would just do 5 minutes up front, introduce the first opener, and then the middle act, and then the headliner.
Right.
And one of my lineups, this actually happened, was me, David Spade, Glennon, Ellen DeGeneres, and Sinbad.
Wow. On the same bill?
On the same bill.
Wow.
I would
hit us back then, but they have hit us now. Yeah.
So I hung out with Sinbad a lot in a sense of, been in his ear. And this is when Sinbad was really starting to explode.
Right.
And I just, I was talking to him one time about, I'm ready to quit my job. Here I'm working this job. I was making all this money.
Right.
And doing well.
Right.
But the call came, the feeling. And basically about a year, almost a year and a half after I'd started doing open mics, I decided to quit my job full time.
I got you beat.
Yeah.
Right at 12 months, I was done.
Yeah.
I called my job up and said, I'm done. I lied to my parents. So I told my parents I got fired. Because, daddy, you ain't living at daddy's house, but you're going to hear, you got a family. You can't be just quitting your job, becoming no comedian. What's wrong with you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I got no competition where they put me on television.
Right.
I didn't win. I came and said, but I got on TV with the guy who won because we were friends. And then we took over this kind of interview on the news network.
Okay.
And my father said, well, that's nice. You'll have something to remember it by. And I just looked at him like, man, you have no idea.
Let me videotape this.
Yeah. It's like, dude, I'm gone. I'm out.
Yeah. Right.
And I learned so much that first year. How it came together, which was really amazing, was when I went to Sinbad he said, well, this is what it's going to be like. You're going to love it. And I said, can I use your name? Because back then, this is way before VHS tapes and DVDs and all that. Yeah, I actually had to send a cassette.
Dude, I thought
some of y'all listening out there, explain to the millennials what a cassette is, because they have no idea.
You know what? I wish I could pull one. I got one around here somewhere.
I'm in my office right now, and there's a box somewhere in my house.
And mine is in the closet, and I should run and get it real quick.
My first album, which was on cassette.
Okay, keep telling the story. Let me see if I can find it. Keep telling the story. I'm gonna see if I can find it.
But I'm telling you, it was just crazy because I was in, where was I? I had to send out tapes. You had to send tapes out to the club owners to listen to your act. And that's basically kind of how it happened. Was you send your tape in the mail, and the club owner, yep, there it is. The club owner put it in his car, leaving the club, and listen to you. And he only listened to the first 3 or 4 minutes. You would put like 45 minutes on it, and it was useless because he never listened to your whole act. He just listened to the first 3 minutes. Yep, open it.
I got a information for you. A little song and dance. See if you can sing and dance. Little Morris Day. Yeah. You send tapes in.
Yes. And I used Sinbad's name, and that's what got me my first month's work, was using his reputation. He vouched for me at a club, and my first month out of California, where I performed outside of California state, I did a weekend.
Okay.
In Lincoln, Nebraska.
I used to play the Funny Bone?
No, it was the Holiday Inn, a place called Gabby's Pub. Inside the Holiday Inn.
Okay.
On Friday and Saturday.
You went from
California
California
to a meat packing factory.
You went from California to do a weekend.
Yes, I drove from San Diego to Lincoln, Nebraska.
That's okay. Young comics, listen up.
Yeah.
Y'all don't know what maps are. Go to Google and distance between San Diego, California, and Lincoln, Nebraska. And remember, back then, the speed limit was 50.
I literally drove from Lincoln, Nebraska, and did a weekend in Lincoln, Nebraska. And then that meant I had to figure out what to do for Sunday, Monday. And I started on that Tuesday at the Stanford's Comedy Club.
In Kansas City.
Kansas City, Missouri.
Oh, yes. And I remember it well.
After that week, I went to Springfield, Missouri, which is another 100 miles south.
Right.
And did a place called, I think, Off the Wall.
Okay.
And then came back the fourth week to do Kansas City again at the Funny Bone.
They had a Funny Bone in Kansas City?
Yes.
So
they were within 4 or 5 miles of each other.
Really?
Yeah, the Stanford and Sons and Funny Bone, 4 miles apart, just 3 or 4 miles apart.
When I went up there, it was Funny Bones just had the two in St. Louis. I mean, the two in that area.
I think Stanford's is still there. Stanford and Sons.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and so I had 4 weeks. That was my first 4 weeks that I had booked, and then I have not worked a regular job since, man.
Wow. Now here's the thing: you said Sinbad. Back in the day, we all had that one comic that turned everything. For me, it was Diane Nichols.
Oh, I remember. I worked with her. Let me explain something to the people out there.
Okay.
What y'all don't know, there was a little racial component back in the day.
Back in the day?
Yeah, a little bit. Slight. But the truth about everybody that's like me and Miguel is that every black comic who is coming up back in the day has worked at least the majority of the time with every female comic. They only put the brothers with the females, and we always work with them, but they wouldn't put us on the same show unless if it was a Def Jam show. If it was a Def Jam show,
before Def Jam, it was just the urban show.
The urban show.
Yeah.
So it was kind of messed up that So I work with Diane Nichols. I work with everybody, Ellen and
well, see, I thought she was so good to me. I was 6 months in, and Igby's Comedy Club opened up a club in Dallas, Texas.
Wow.
Yeah, they opened up a club in Dallas.
Igby's in LA. Yes.
Yeah, when they used to tape the first production show. What was it called? What John Maroney was the host.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I worked with him a few times in Vegas.
Right. So I'm working. And Diane was opening. Closing, and I was opening. This third night, she came up to me and said, "You're very funny. How long you been in comedy?" I said, "This is my fourth month on the road. I've been in the comedy about a year and 4 months." She said, "Now is the time to choose what kind of comic you want to be." And I said, "A funny one." And she said, "Yeah, that's good. But here's the thing. There's two types of comedians. There's two types of comedians."
That's the minimum.
Yes.
That's the minimum. You're supposed to be funny.
Right.
That's no aspiration.
I didn't know where she was going with it. I had no idea. But she said there's two types of comedian. There's nightclub and there's television.
Yeah.
Nightclubs can say whatever they want to say, express themselves, use any kind of language they want to. You're gonna work nightclubs. You might work as much as you want to, but you're gonna work nightclubs. TV, you can work anywhere. Your horizon is through the roof. There is no ceiling. And I said, well, I work clean. I've always worked clean. I wasn't around, in my atmosphere or environment growing up. Right. My parents didn't curse. So it was kind of be hypocritical for me to start doing that. So I chose clean. And that little advice has gotten me over through some major humps. Uh-huh. So it's always that one person that really, because I got advice from many people: Vic Dunlop, Steve Harvey, David Nastor, all these guys back in the day, man, used to give me real good advice and how I should approach it. But so here's the thing. So now you're on the road. Now you do something, or you did something that I always admired about you, and I was like, man, and he ain't tell nobody how he do it. That's how most comics are. They get something, they don't tell nobody nothing. You used to open for everybody, and I ain't talking about comics, Johnny Mathis, and major singing groups. How did you land that gig?
Well,
or those gigs.
Yeah, I did open up for a lot of people, from Al Green to Tower of Power. I even opened up for War, Tanya Tucker. Tanya Tucker was funny because it was in Billings, Montana at the state fair. And 10,000 cowboys. My manager at the time would send me out to gigs because he just goes, "Well, Derrick can do that one," and I would show up. And I remember when I went to the guy that was in charge of the arena, and I walked up and they go, "Hey, how you doing?" He goes, "You're Derrick?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "You're Derrick?" I go, "Yeah, man." He goes, "All right." Dressing room's back that way. I heard later on he ran to the office and called up my management team. "He's black! He's black!"
You were in Montana. That had to be a shocker.
Yeah, so what happened was really interesting about it was because I went up and did the gig, and the guy was like, I did really well. Uh-huh. He goes, "Hey, you like doing this kind of stuff?" And I go, "Yeah." And it turns out that this cat was in charge of the entire West Coast National Fairs Association. Okay. So he got me a showcase. And because I started doing these state fairs, I got in with these people that necessarily run all these big venues for all these artists that go and do concerts. Right. And what really surprised them when you're talking about being clean, the reason why I went the clean route was I looked at being the only black guy in the show. And at the time, Jeff Jam was starting to explode. Right. And they took the impression that all black people are the same. So I said, I don't want to be in that little box of being the black comic. Right. I want that money for where all the white guys they get to go to do other shows, and they get to work here, work there. Right. I didn't want people saying Derrick can't do that gig because he's black. Right. Which they do a lot of times. My style was to manipulate that and work with that and knowing how to get to all kind of crowds because I want to make everybody laugh and get that big. So what happened was when I did the showcase for the State Fairs Association for the whole West Coast to get any of the state fairs gigs, they had me host the showcase.
Okay.
So there was like maybe 10 acts on the showcase. Now, all the other people that had done it before would perform at the beginning and then introduced all the other acts because there was 20 minutes in between each act.
Okay.
While they set it up.
Right.
I performed every point in between each act for 10 acts. I did 20 minutes in between each act. The show started. Yes, I did. Yes, I performed the entire night. Squeaky, family, clean.
That's a lot of material, bro.
I did a whole night of that. And they were like, one guy said to me.
You had to improv a lot. You had to improv a lot.
No.
Really?
No, I never talked to audience. No. I just did my show and I just put it in different spots. But a little thing could trigger a 10-minute piece.
Right.
Like, okay, I can talk about that a little bit. But I just knew what I was doing. And what was funny was about eight acts in, this guy comes to me. He goes, "Hey man, I don't know if you ever done this stuff, but you might want to not do so much time in between." And I go, "Why?" He goes, "Well, you got to work clean." And he was just assuming that because I was black, that I'm going to run out of clean material.
Right.
And I didn't. And it just kind of surprised them. So they had me do the national one. They had me do the national one in Vegas. And I did the same thing. That was the night where I was in the main showrooms at the Hilton. And I literally worked with Grand Funk Railroad, Blue Oyster Cult, Don McLean, The Fifth Dimension.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, all those acts, right? And I did the same thing where I performed in every 20 minutes in between each act for the whole night.
You earned your key.
5,000 people.
It wasn't like you just got referred to it and got in. You earned that.
Yes. Proved that I could perform because I knew that they were just seeing the face.
Right.
And they were assuming that I was going to go up and do Jeff Jam in front of their, family-friendly state fair crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't. And I was funny and I was entertaining and I did that. Well, what happened was that night when I went to my booth, they did not promote me. There was nobody there.
Really?
No, they didn't have anybody to represent me. And they left me hanging after I did all that work.
Right.
And I didn't get any gigs out of it. So they said, "Hey, Derrick, how about this? We got this for you." And that's when I started opening up for people like Johnny Mathis.
Right.
Because they said, "Hey, we got this other thing," and I went and did that, did well, and then it just kind of came together. But they knew that I could be clean, and I was going to be a solid act, and that's
Here's the thing that's most impressive. It's really impressive that you did all that time in between. But what's most impressive to me, and I have vowed that I will never. I don't care if Jesus himself asked me to perform. I will not perform outside anymore.
Oh.
That is brutal.
I have done it so many times because I did that state fair thing. They hooked me up with other state fairs.
Right.
I can say this that I am probably the only black comedian in America that has actually performed halftime at a demolition derby in Great Falls, Montana.
You can have that. You can have that one, bro. Ain't nobody gonna try to challenge you for that one.
They took the cars out of the ring. They drove a 100-foot flatbed into the pit, and the guy from the tower goes, "We got a comedian coming on around there," and he fed me the microphone from the tower.
Wow! None of that phased you?
Huh?
None of that phased you?
No. And I just walked out.
Yeah.
And I just grabbed the microphone, and then I literally looked at, like 3,000 people in the grandstand, and I'm standing on a flatbed in the middle of this ring while they fixing the cars. Dark number 74 gonna be out of this next competition. He gonna bring them a fender. I mean, yes, dude.
Your answer was priceless. Your answer was like, I walk into a bedroom and you have 5 women in there, and you, and I look at you like, Derrick, what are you doing? You're like, and and just turn around, dude. That's nothing. That is nothing to sneeze about. I get nervous when, because comics, we like certain venues.
Yeah.
And when you take us out of the element, your mind races because you have to formulate what's going on. It's kind of like a Jason Bourne thing. You are figuring out everything.
Yeah.
And outside, the last outside act show I did, it was in Cleveland, Mississippi. I don't have to say nothing else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
what prepped me for that was in Seattle, Washington, because I lived in Seattle for like 12 years. Every year in Seattle, they have this thing called the Bite of Seattle. And it's right in the Seattle Center where the Space Needle is.
What is it called?
The Bite of Seattle.
The Bite.
The Bite, which is, they have hundreds of restaurants.
Okay.
And places, and they set up little booths.
Like eating.
And people come through and eat and get a little taste. They call it like a taste of it, little small portions. And they have 3-4 stages of all bands and stuff. And some big bands have come through there. And all day, for a whole weekend, they have people, thousands of people, literally 100,000 people will come through the gates. And the other guys would do that. Like, you have a microphone, you are the host of that stage.
Right.
And the other guys would just make announcements that were on the other stages that were friends of mine that were comics, maybe do a couple of jokes. But I would have like 1,000 people on the lawn sitting there with dead air. I mean, no. So I literally prepared for that without even thinking. I said, I got a microphone. I know how to be clean. There's families, everything. I'm going to perform and keep them on my stage in my area for the whole day.
Which the people who ran that area loved, because that's what they want you to keep the people there.
Yes, I just didn't go, okay, we got what's the name, got some stuff over here to buy and everything. All right, we'll be back in 10 minutes, and then people would get up and leave. I kept them there the whole day, and that was my thought process. Was I have a live microphone in front of 3,000-4,000 people.
Right.
Nobody's stopping me.
Utilize it. Utilize what you got.
Yes. So I did. And I actually, like, man, you just, the 20, I go, yes. And so I was doing literally, because it'd take 20 minutes and they would be moving speakers behind me and I just move out the way and jump over the front monitor and step around here. And I would just stand out there and tell jokes. And I got used to that. So that prepped me for when I had to go do the showcase.
Right.
Because I knew exactly how to do it because I just did it the last summer. So I kept performing while they were setting up things and doing all their sound checks.
Okay, so you went from selling rugs to comedy clubs to state fairs to open up for big acts. Where did the cruise ship come in? In what year?
I think it was in the 2000s, early 2000s.
Okay, so I got in
after
before.
I done like some TV stuff, and I had done. I started working with after I did Tonight Show. A lot of things opened up for me.
I used to see your picture all the time at the comedy clubs.
Yeah,
all the time.
I did that, but I messed up. I think one thing I did mess up in my career that I didn't get it because I'm a person that doesn't like to stay somewhere too long.
But that's good though.
It's good and bad.
Okay.
I didn't know at the beginning that while I was going to all these different clubs, that I was supposed to go back every 6 to 8, 9 months and keep calling back. Okay. Right. I would go, all right, I'm gonna work over here, and go do this gig. And then I would call them back 2 years later, hey, it's Derrick. Who?
Yeah. Right.
I never really bonded with all the club owners and make that really strong connection to go back because I wanted to see something different. So that was a thing I wish I would have done differently just to maintain that connection.
Okay. Right.
But no one explained that to me, and I missed out on that. So that's why I always worked a lot of different places. But I liked it because I like to be challenged to see what I can do in this situation because I had been thrown in. I'm always thrown in. Like whenever they had something difficult to do, they would send me out. And then so
So give me one story. Give me one story that didn't turn out so well, where you were thrown to the lions and you was eaten. You got to have one. You should have no arms, no legs. You should have no arms, no legs.
Yeah, there's okay.
This is gonna be good. You already laughing.
Well, it just really happened. This is a story I think I've told before, but this really did happen. I survived it, but it was a really tough situation. I was in Augusta, Georgia, and it was a Saturday night, and it was it was a one-nighter. Okay. And you know how and a lot of people don't know this, but they have comedy nights all over the country. At the time, one-nighters were really, really hot. Right. And there was this one agency called Creative, and I was trying to get in with them, and they paid good money, and they had like 100 nights of work. Yep. So you got in with them, you were good.
You want to be working.
And they sent me to this place that had, oh man, there must have been 600-700 people in that bar. And it was all good boys. Nobody looked like me for the next 10 counties. Right. I mean, it was as thick as you can get. I mean, it was like the scene from Eddie Murphy when he walked in that bar and he's like, that record player stopped and all those good boys looked up.
What Nick Nolte say? They sure gonna like your ass.
Yeah, oh man. Oh man, I walked in there and I mean, I saw the guy, the club owner, his eyes just get real big when I walked through the door. And what was really different about it was because my opening act, because I was the headliner, the opening act was this white guy, but he was from England.
Oh.
Yes, that was my opening act. Right?
Oh, and the hits keep on coming.
Yeah. So first of all, you know, they're gonna go up and they have a white guy go up and they go, okay, we're all right. And he goes up, showtime to see you. Right, fantastic. This is first time to America. Fantastic, lovely. And they're like, what the heck? Wait. And then they said, well, in their mind, they're going, well, at least the black guy's gonna be black. And I walk up there, go, how's it going? Ain't fantastic, huh?
He's talking like he should talk.
Man,
with personalities.
I threw their heads for a loop, and not helping it was this actually happened. To promote that night, to pack out the room, he had 7 to 9. Show starts at 9, but for 2 hours, you can get a beer for a penny. And so there were guys with rolls of pennies in the bar, and with their red cup in hand, with the pennies in the other hand, and just downing beers.
Whose marketing ideal was that?
I walked into that. And that's when you go, as a comic, why do we go up?
Yeah.
Why do we go? We always go up, and we should leave.
We should. We should. You're right.
We don't leave.
We like the challenge. We want. I can make it happen.
You can literally walk into a club, and they go, yeah, well, we killed the last guy. You're on in 20 minutes. And you go, okay.
Okay. How much time you want me to do?
I was at a club in Alaska, and they were impressed. Because that was the first comic that they had in over a year that a fight or nobody got stabbed. They go, they liked you.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, all right. Yeah, and we go up. And I mean, because he literally said this to me. He looked me in the eye and he said, hey man, he looked at his crowd and all behind me is this guy just downing beers, man. And it's packed, right? You know, the whole stage is set up and it's just like, it's a nightmare. And he just looks at me and he goes, hey man, I can turn it up as loud as I can, but I have no crowd control. You better be funny, all right? You better be funny.
That is vote of confidence. That's what you want, that vote of confidence.
Man, and I was like, whoa. But I had to go up and I went up and I finished it and I did all right. And
got through it. You survived it.
Huh?
You survived it.
I survived it, you know, and the comedic instincts to kick in. Because even though
that's the groundwork a lot of comics don't know about these days, man. That grind that we did all through those years, when you hit moments like that, like even on the cruise ships, you hit them audience, you hit those crowds, they just don't like you for whatever reason, but you have that experience from all those shows that you can bring back to bring to the stage. The young cats don't understand that, man.
Well, the thing that happened to me early on, was the fact that because of my color and my style of doing it, whenever my agents or managers actually had a new room where they had nobody that looked like me ever go there, they would send me in first. I was the groundbreaker.
You was groundbreaker. You was the Jackie Robinson of that club.
Yes, they sent me in first, so I had to deal with a lot of stuff because, but just to integrate the room, to allow it open, because I had that happen. I literally been in a showroom, and one time in South Dakota, where
Montana, South Dakota, Alaska.
Oh yeah, I worked everywhere.
I thought Mississippi and Alabama was bad, but doggone, you take it to a whole new level, brother.
And I saw the hotel manager, because we were performing in this lounge of the Holiday Inn that they had comedy every Friday and Saturday night.
Right.
And the guy that books it was there with me, and I'm literally listening to the hotel manager cussing him out about booking people that look like me in his comedy room.
Right.
You know, basically just dropping the N-bomb.
Wow.
And saying that he don't want the N-bombs in here anymore like that. Don't you be booking them back here. So he's in the back of the room while I'm on stage.
Right.
And I can see him.
Right.
And so I just kept turning it up on stage. And I saw him like this. And then I saw him. And by the end of my show, he's on the floor.
Right.
He tried to hold back the laughter. He didn't want to find me funny, but he did. Right. And then later that year, when they decided to have New Year's, and for the first time, they said, we're going to have comedy for New Year's. And they basically booked all the rooms. They booked the main comedy club room and then the 2 banquet rooms.
Okay.
And we had comedians rotate throughout the night to perform in 3 different rooms.
Right.
The first comedian he asked for to the booker was me. He asked for me first. The guy that he didn't want any skin there asked for me first. And that's when you pay him back.
Okay, yeah. You can be rebel all you want to, but no, I'm gonna hit you. I'm gonna hit you back in a better way.
But I always look at it this way. All my life, I have been perceived one way.
Yeah.
And my whole belief system is, I'm going to surprise you and show you something different. I'm going to actually show you something about yourself that you don't realize.
Yep.
And it's going to hit you in a certain way, because funny is funny.
I've always said that.
And you can deny it all you want. You can have all your little preconceived things and your prejudice in there. But if it's funny, it's funny.
I hate when comedians, perfect example. Faison Love.
Yes, he started the same day where I was at.
He started dogging out Dave Chappelle. Yeah. Dave Chappelle did his the last one, Sticks and Stones, which is
really, yeah, it's brilliant. One of the most brilliant pieces of comedy I've seen in years.
He said that Dave's all right. White people made Dave. Dave ain't never made any niggas laugh. Those were his exact words.
That's not true.
No, absolutely, it's not true.
Yeah.
But but okay, I didn't want to veer off on that because I don't want to get. But I'm like you. Funny is funny. It ain't about black or white. It's just. Yeah. And I tell comics all the time that start and they ask me advice. I said, just write jokes. Don't try to write black or try to write smart.
No, you're limiting yourself when it comes to the market.
Exactly. You're putting yourself into a box.
Like you guys always see me performing in Europe and stuff. Like, how did Derrick go to Europe?
Again. We get on the cruise ships. We in Curacao. We in St. Thomas again. We in Nassau again. And Derrick is in Switzerland, Denmark,
man,
Trinidad, and the cruise ship don't even go to Trinidad. But Derrick's there. jumping his famous pose, jumping in the air. I'm like,
oh yeah. Well,
was the cruise ships a different transition to jump into?
No.
Smooth
Well,
transition?
yeah. No, this it's it actually was good timing because when I started working with all the different musical acts, when you work in front of, on average, 3,000 to 5,000 people,
right,
your act changes.
Right.
I left being a comedy club comic
Yes.
to being a theatrical comic.
Which is totally different.
Which is very different. And a lot of guys, you can tell that are not used to performing theatrically, because if you watch comedy specials today, you can tell a guy who only works comedy clubs because he's always looking down at the front row.
Yes.
And and then they do that back shot, and you see this balcony of 500 to 1,000 people up on the upper level.
It'll freak them out.
Yeah, and they don't look up. They're not performing out.
Yeah.
Because comedy clubs here.
Yes.
Theatrically, you perform here, and you got to perform out to this room, and you got to fill up that stage in that way. And you can tell the guys that don't do that often. It's not their fault. They just don't have the opportunity, and they're not that big yet. But
this is the best analogy I give on when people ask me about that. I said it's kind of like a guy who has a Mini Coupe for 10 years, and then all of a sudden he hit the lottery, and he has a limousine, and he's sitting in the back of the limousine in that one corner, just like he did the Mini Coupe, because he doesn't know how to stretch his legs.
Yeah.
He's never stretched his legs out before.
Well, a lot of guys don't understand the expression, fill the stage.
Yes. Yes.
You've got to know how to fill the stage. We're on grand stages, and what I found out that I really prefer performing, because my style of comedy is theatrical.
Same as me.
And so I don't like performing in comedy clubs anymore. I like the expansiveness of performing theatrically and taking it and making it bigger.
Yeah, making it a production.
Yes, and so when you do that, I got used to that. Right. So when I went to doing the ships, it was like, oh yeah, I just, it was normal for me. And then also working with Johnny Mathis, that really helped. That's the biggest part. One of the biggest things I learned was working with him.
Right.
I was fortunate enough that, see, Johnny Mathis is different from all the other acts I've opened up for.
Right.
Because all the other acts I opened up for. Johnny Mathis, you don't open up for him. You follow him, which is crazy. He goes out, when the show starts at 8, he walks out at 8, and then does 35 minutes of his biggest hits.
Right.
Destroys the room.
Right.
And then he introduces me, and then I walk out after him. Johnny
Mathis introduces you.
Yes. Yes. So when I did a show with him in Westbury in New York, 3,000 seaters in the room, I counted 15 standing ovations before I walked out there. 15. Wow. And then on the 15th standing ovation, while they're still, Johnny, screaming his name, and these New Yorkers,
right?
Johnny says, "I'm gonna take a little break. I'm gonna have be back in a little bit. In the meantime, I have a friend that's gonna come out and perform. You guys are gonna really enjoy him. He doesn't say I'm a comedian. Doesn't say I'm a comic. Doesn't say I'm a singer. Doesn't say anything. He just says, please welcome Derrick Cameron. That's it. And I walk out. And then I have to follow him and perform. And then and finish. And then he comes back out at the end. So that you have to have your chops, man.
Every once that you ever come out and say, thank you, Johnny Mathis, for opening for me.
No.
That's been the last gig you did, right?
Yeah. He was just the most genuine man. I actually have a joke that, he really likes to keep it really safe and this is about as edgy. I didn't get edgy with him, but even like racially, he doesn't like you to bring up too much things about people of color. But it was the perfect joke to follow because they just saw their hero, this man, this legend.
Right.
I mean, he rips the first 35 minutes. Just incredible. I mean, there's women crying all over the place, and his audience is anywhere from 60 to 90. They're all there, and so and he looks great. And so that's what I mentioned. It's great. I said it's great to see your musical heroes look like you remembered them. just amazing, you know, and Johnny Mathis looks so good. I mean, you know, when I grew up, Michael Jackson used to look like me.
Right. There you go.
Right? And so your heroes changed. My heroes changed. Yours didn't, you know?
Yeah.
And when he was like, he kind of like, can you not, you know, like, all right.
Like, calm down, Johnny. I'm telling a joke. You're not.
Yeah.
Stick with singing.
The beautiful thing I learned from watching him was, the best thing I learned from watching him was this. Johnny Mathis creates this energy, not with jumping around, doing big flips on stage, very calming.
Okay.
But with his audience and how he commands them, he creates such anticipation that the audience is not only emotionally, but even physically leaning forward.
That's a good thing. That's technique right there.
That they can't wait to hear what he's going to say or sing next. And watching him, those years I worked with him, I always watched the first 3 songs.
Right.
To see what he did, how he took this room and put him right there.
Right.
And because I had to follow him, I had to grab them so quick. And I learned how to grab an audience within a second. Just,
you have to.
Yeah, grab them.
Not trying to follow. There's a difference between trying to follow somebody and riding the wave.
Yes. And I figured out how to do all that.
Yeah.
Working with him. And so that's what I remember about, you know, in comedy, is that get your audience to lean forward. It doesn't have to be physically, but emotionally, just lean forward, because if they're leaning forward, they are waiting for you to wow them.
See, this is the thing. Comics don't understand, or people don't understand what goes into being a comic. It's more than just telling a joke.
Yeah.
And we got like 10, 15 minutes tops, man, because I should have recorded this thing at hour 30. I forgot how many stories you had, but I want to get to the cruise ships. And you've been on cruise ships for how long now? We're going to try to make these short answers. For Derrick, that's impossible. But we're going to try to make these
I think the early 2000s, maybe around 2002 or 3.
So you
I started
18,
doing a couple of them a year,
18,
but I didn't do a lot.
18 years, 18, between
I guess. Yes, I did. I did a couple of them. I was doing mostly Johnny work all the way from 2002 to 2009.
Okay, so 2009 really when you started going.
But I stopped doing it. So I stopped working with Johnny because I worked with him for like 7.5, 8 years. And then so in that middle of that, that's when I kind of started. So I think maybe around 2005 or 6 is when I started doing more consistent work.
All right, let me ask you this. Okay, when this whole Corona thing hit, and I know you're at home, you have no kids, no wife.
See how quiet the house is? See how quiet? And you don't hear nothing. You don't hear nothing.
Hold on. Let me see. I don't hear nothing, man.
Not even a dog. Not even that. Outside my house, all I see is a patch of grass in my complex. And that's where everybody bring their dogs to go to the bathroom.
Right.
That's what I've been looking at for the whole month. If there's people walking out, bringing their dog to poop, and then picking it right up. You know, let me say something. I don't know what it's like to be a parent, but if my kid took a crap in the middle of the street, I ain't picking it up.
Hey, that's why you don't have a kid and you don't have a dog.
I don't have that much compassion. I don't have that. I don't have that in me. I know.
But it's good that you know you don't have it instead of going and get a dog or having a kid and then realize I ain't got it. That's the worst time to figure it out, Derrick. That's the worst time to figure it out after the fact.
Yeah, well, I see a couple of them because they look around like, no, I see you better pick that up.
That's when you pull out that megaphone. Pick up the poop. Pick up the poop. So D, where were you when this whole thing, when the whole episode where they shut the ships down? Where were you?
I finished on March the 10th. Was my last day. March the 10th was my last weekend. And I was actually pretty beat up because I had worked about 5.5 months straight.
Right.
And I was pretty beat up. And I was like, man, I had to go home for a day and then I was going straight to a 5-day cruise, basically LA to Hawaii.
Right.
I wasn't really looking forward to it.
Right.
So when they said, "Hey, we got to cancel you," I was like, "All right, cool." I wasn't upset.
Right.
I was like, "Oh man, I get to be home, and I get to be home." And now I'm home. I'm gonna be home, man. I don't know. You know, on a serious tip, though, it is. I was talking to a friend of mine this morning about it. I don't know what's going to happen because what we do, we're the only profession that, for us to do what we do, we have to have a crowd.
I found that out last night when I did the virtual comedy show. It is different.
Yes, we have to have a crowd to do what we do. We need groups together because that crowd becomes an energy that feeds what we do. It doesn't work separately. It has to be this. So what form will it be? I don't know.
Right.
Are they going to make the showrooms where it has to, you can max out at 50%, but you can never get back to having 100% full capacity? Right. You got to go down to 50%, and then the comedian has to be, or the performer has to be a certain distance from an audience member on stage.
An audience member got to have the mask on.
If the people in the audience have to wear a mask, and we got to hear laughter through.
Exactly.
I don't know. It's going to get weird. I don't know. I just know that I know something will happen that we're just going to have to be adapted. I'm happy the fact that I have performed. I remember, because, like I said, I wanted money from all different places.
Right.
In my career, I have done this. I wrote a show for schools.
Okay.
And it basically is when they did magazine drives up in Seattle, I would put on a show for them when they won their magazine drive, and they had to choose different acts, and they always chose the comedian. Right. And I was the only comedian in Seattle that could do this.
Right.
I would write a show with 20 minutes of comedy, and then let them ask me questions for like 15, 20. And then I'm out. So one time, I did elementary Catholic school.
Okay.
Like 8 nuns sitting in the front row. I did that at 9 in the morning.
Tough crowd, you know.
Okay. You know? And then I did that. That's like 35 minutes.
Right.
Then left there and went to a middle school and did another assembly at a middle school.
Okay.
Another 35 minutes, 30, 45 minutes. Then later that afternoon, went to a college and did an hour in front of college students.
Jeez.
And then I went and did a corporate that evening. Later on, early evening after they had their meal, for another set for like 30 minutes. And then later that night, I did a comedy club, and I did all that in one day.
Ooh.
And I have no notes. It's just all in my head, and I organized clean here, comedy. I can say this here, can't say that there. And I did that a lot. And I was always sent out to all these weird kind of gigs. Derrick can do it. But that prepared me to be able to adapt to any environment quickly. Like, okay, what am I doing here? What am I going up? All right, okay. And I just know what to do in that situation.
You can compartmentalize it.
Yes, I'm really good at compartmentalizing. So whatever they throw at us, I will figure out a way to perform in that environment because I have gone through the stresses of performing in so many. I've done weddings.
Yeah, I've done the weddings.
From demolition derbies to rodeos to backyard parties.
Right.
I did this rich guy's house. Loaded. Man, he had a 30-foot Christmas tree in his office, his kitchen. 30-foot Christmas tree. It was in his house. I stood next to the tree and did jokes.
Wow.
And you go, you gotta be kidding me. And on a tennis court with chairs set up in the back. I've done it. So there's not a position that I haven't been in that I can't deal with, right? I even had, like when I was coming up and I was emceeing, and I remember the power went out. They had no power. And they said, Derrick, and I already done all my act. I had done 15 minutes total. That's all I had.
Right.
I had to stretch 20 minutes.
Another 20.
Yeah. I had to figure it out. Sinbad went to Mexico when we were down and working in San Diego. He went down to Tijuana, ate something. They said, Sinbad's in the bathroom.
Wow.
Stretch.
Right. You got to do what you got to do.
Until he's ready.
Yeah, they'll tell you how long.
Right.
So keep going.
Keep going.
You're doing fine. Keep going.
Right. And so that's what I did, man. And so I know that I'll be able to survive this new form.
Right.
And one of the things they ask, I have speaking things that I do, and I have lectures about the world of comedy that I'm able to do. So there is some things that I've done, and also some speaking engagements where I have done some motivational speaking.
Right.
So there's different ways for me to survive this, coming out of this, and what form it takes. It doesn't matter as long as I'm able to do this.
I don't think myself or you is going to have to worry. I think what this is going to do is weed out a lot of people who are not true to the game, who have lost their touch, their passion, their drive.
They stopped performing and they started reciting.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of cats that I saw over the years that are reciting their act instead of performing it.
Right. So I think it's going to be for people like me, yourself, and a lot of people that we know in the small circle that we hang with.
Right.
We know who the true comics are. And it's not knocking guys who, because it's easy on the cruise ship, it's easy to become content. Easy.
Yes. Yeah.
So I don't, because I was content for a while. I should have been out away from the cruise ships 10 years ago. I had a plan, but I never implemented that plan.
Well, what got me this past year, that's why it was really frustrating leaving this last month off, because I was in a zone and I was really connecting, because I had an incident happen a year ago, New Year's Eve, where the night before New Year's Eve, actually, because I performed and I did a show, and great show, great audience, standing ovation. Afterwards, I sold a tremendous amount of DVDs afterwards. And then the next day, this guy from the shop manager said, I can't process the slip. And he goes, I can't process this slip because there's the account's been closed. And I said, really? He goes, yeah. I go, well, that happens sometimes. Some people write down the wrong number. Right. And he goes, no. I went and did a little investigation. And this account is closed because the lady who bought your DVD last night, she died. And I said, really? And I said, he goes, yeah. And he said, so what do you want me to do about it? I said, well, find out she has some grandkids and get my $20. I go, no, man, what do you want me to do? I don't know. I mean, seriously, dude. No, just let it go. Let it go.
Yeah, I want my money, man. Hey, I sold it. I want to account for it.
So I said, no, man. Oh, okay. And I took that information in, and I thought about it, right? I said, listen. I said, can I have the slip? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, okay. And I said, later on, it taught me something about this business, because I had got a little bit of complacent, and I was kind of getting used to doing the same thing. Right. And I said, I know now. I now know something, a truth. When I do a show, when there's kids out there, I'm possibly the first comedian they have ever seen live. Right. Yep. But also, because I'm in that environment, I'm also could be that person out there last performance. Yep. I know now that the last night of that lady's life, she laughed her butt off, and so much so that she came out to buy my DVD. Right. I mean, this literally a 70-year-old white lady came to buy a DVD of a black comedian. Right. Right. right?
Yeah.
That she wanted to share with her friends. I said, that's how much the world changed, but that's also the process. But it also taught me something, that don't ever cheat them, because this is someone's first and it could be someone's last. So don't ever cheat them. I want to show you this because it's going to take me just 2 seconds.
Okay.
I have to see this.
And I'm going to sit here and look at your chair, but I'm going to tell you something. That is a great message for comics and myself, you know, that we should remember that. I remember Michael Jordan said he worked so hard, he played so hard, because it might be that guy's first time he bringing his child, the only time they get to see him play. And when guys take off all the time, he said, I never want to take off. I never want to take off. Because he's conscious of that. You're very conscious, and that's a positive thing, man.
So I kept the slip.
Okay.
And here it is right here. It's framed.
Wow.
And it's in my office here. I have it hanging so that it reminds me every time I leave to go do a gig.
Right.
Don't ever cheat my audience.
Man.
Don't ever cheat them.
Hey, listen. Let me tell you something. We're going to end on that note because we can't follow that. That's the Johnny Mathis right there. That story was the Johnny Mathis story. Listen here, Derrick.
All right,
Thank you for being on my podcast, brother. We got to do a part two. We got to do a part two. We got to do a part two because I forgot. I wasn't thinking. I forgot. Because we talk all the time. And, okay, you talk all the time. I listen. But, we get together and I forgot.
You know how hard it is for me to be in my house by myself? You know how hard it is? I need to talk to somebody. I need to talk.
The only time you don't talk a lot is when you're setting up for your golf shot. That's the only time, like, hey, y'all need to be quiet. Y'all need to be quiet. But Derrick, man, inspirational. You taught me a lot right there, brother. See, a lot of times we think we know people, but we don't know them. That's why I want to have this podcast so we can talk, vent, so people I want my audience to know who you are. So when they see you, like, this guy here is deep. He ain't just telling jokes. He has a story behind it. So, man, thank you for coming to my podcast. Funny thing happened. Funny thing happened on my way to success. I met my man, Derrick Cameron. Thank you, my brother, and we'll talk real soon. You can purchase my book at Amazon. Also, listen to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all podcast platforms. Follow me on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Miggy'sWorld_. Lastly, to experience and support everything I'm doing, go to my website, Miggy'sWorld.com. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week.